welcome everyone to the Journal and to our very first mayoral candidates editorial board. For those who don't know what an editorial board is, it's an old-fashioned newspaper word for a scrum. And really what this is poor Karen Leibovici, the mayoral candidate, is here to talk to our editorial board, our City Hall reporter, a couple of columnists, and just to kind of get an idea of where she wants to lead the city and what her priorities are. So I might go around the table. I'm Margot Goodhead, the editor of the Journal, Stephanie Coombs, managing editor of the Journal, Paula Simons, city columnist, Gordon Kent, the City Hall reporter, Sarah O'Donnell, who's our editorial writer, Kathy Kerr, who's our content editor, Dave Howell, who's a city editor, and David Staples, who's a city columnist. So we're all here, yeah, and this is Karen Leibovici in the center in the hot seat. So we thought we'd try something different. We decided to throw this open to the web for the first few minutes, and we'd really like to, we've got a few questions from readers and a few questions of our own. So we'll start it off with Sarah.
We got several questions about urban sprawl, so let's start with that. Edmonton is often criticized for urban sprawl. You've said you don't think Edmonton has urban sprawl. So how would you describe Edmonton's growth on the outskirts, and what do you think a good model is for sustainable development?
The reality is in Edmonton, we grow both inwards and outwards. And as in many questions, you have to look at where the balance is and to have a balanced perspective in addressing an issue. If we want to see where sprawl is occurring, that's occurring in the region. When we build in the new greenfield areas, we're building with a higher density than in most communities within the city right now. We have a minimum of 25% infill is what we want to achieve in accordance with our municipal development plan. And in order to do that, we need to ensure that the Blatchford development goes ahead, because that's how we're going to achieve that minimum 25% infill. We need to be strong as a council when the proposals come forward to us for the duplexes on the single-family lots, the row houses on those single-family lots as well, and having the smaller homes built on those single-family lots. So we need to ensure that there's better communication with the public as well around those issues. Again, in the greenfield developments, we're looking at ensuring that the higher densities are there. We have a choice. We could say no. We could, in fact, say no to any greenfield developments, and what that would do is increase the housing affordability in the city, as well as the choices that people want to see. And do we really want to drive people out of the city to live in the surrounding communities? I would say that the majority of Edmontonians would say no. We don't want to do that. We want to ensure that there's housing affordability and choice within our city boundaries.
I had a fairly tough question actually from one of the readers who said they've already been robocalled by your campaign, and they found that quite annoying, and basically said, how can I trust someone who endorses that kind of practice to be in charge of the services that affect my daily life?
Well, the robocall was actually a personal invitation from myself to attend a telephone town hall. And given this is an election campaign, it's impossible to go to hundreds of thousands of doors and knock on someone's door. The other way to try and engage Edmontonians is through a personal invite to a telephone town hall. We also are having phone calls with individuals who are helping out on the campaign to promote my candidacy, and those are not robocalls.
Have you had any complaints, any other complaints about that?
We've had some people that don't like the idea of us phoning, but my question then is how do we reach out to everyone? We've dropped our literature in everyone's mailbox. That's occurred as well. We've allowed the opportunity for the telephone town hall, and you could register. And if people don't want to receive phone calls from us, they send us their phone number, and then we take them off the list.
The Mandel Council has had a strong agenda pushing ahead on LRT, downtown revitalization, and we've been working on regional cooperation for some time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to assess how each of the three main candidates, yourself, Diod, and Iveson, will do in terms of pushing ahead on that agenda.
I believe that I'm the only one that can actually fulfill the agenda. And that's the big difference. If you look at my track record, my proven leadership abilities, and my experience, none of the other candidates has that. If you look at bringing a new council together, which is necessary to fulfill any kind of agenda, none of the other candidates can do that as well. So if we want to ensure that those items, the LRT, the Arena and Entertainment District, and regional cooperation, in fact, occur, what you really need is a doer, and you don't need a storyteller in the seat of the mayor's chair, and you don't need someone who is basically only talking about potholes. The city is more than potholes, and we need to ensure that the city is prosperous, is world-renowned, is cosmopolitan, is welcoming, and in order to get to that vision, which everyone will say, wonderful ideas about where they want the city to be, you need to have a doer in the mayor's chair.
So Councillor Iveson has supported all of these things at one time or another. You're characterizing him as a storyteller. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's not actually myself characterizing him as a storyteller. He's characterized himself as a storyteller. What I'm saying is that you need to look at the track record. And the track record of who's brought dollars home to municipalities across the country is myself, in terms of my work as the president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, where we have reached an historic deal on ensuring that the federal gas tax transfer is permanent, but even more importantly, it's that it's indexed. Now, there's a lot of talk about how are we going to fund the LRT, and we're missing those LRT dollars. One of the approaches that we need to undertake is to sit down with the provincial government and hammer out a similar deal. We cannot, as a municipality, as the second largest city in this province and the fifth largest city across the country, keep depending on grants from the provincial government. We need the same kind of a permanent deal on the provincial gas tax that we get right now, that is able to also be indexed, so we can then plan for those long-term bigger projects.
So you have raised a few issues, the red tape committee, clearing sidewalks for seniors, setting up a council finance committee. In your mayoral campaign, if these were so important, why didn't you raise them during the 12 years on council?
As mayor, you're able to do initiatives that are a little bit different than you do as a councillor. And as a councillor, I've been involved in bringing forward many ideas. The snow removal policy, for instance, that we have in place right now is directly as a result of a lot of the work that I have done over the last 12 years. We need to keep getting better at our snow removal policy. And I know that one of the issues that we have with seniors is that they're sometimes finding it difficult to remain in their homes. This is one way to address that issue. When you look at the way our finances or the process by which we look at the budget right now, the reality is we've been tinkering around the edges for a long time. And what we now need to do is to ensure that the city remains fiscally sustainable. And I believe the way to do that is to bring council, the real decision makers, more into the role of reviewing the budget on a regular basis. And in fact, Calgary has a process much like that. They have a priorities and finance committee. Their actually committee is much more broad in terms of what they look at, and it seems to work quite well in Calgary in bringing forward ideas on how the budget should be allocated.
I'm curious, in your campaign literature, you remind people that you began your political career as a provincial MLA. Your campaign literature neglects to point out for which party you served as an MLA, and I'm wondering if you could explain to me why you adopted that strategy and how how you think that's going to play with voters. Is there a danger if people perceive that you were a government MLA in a city that's not necessarily warm to the current provincial government, that that's not necessarily the right strategy either?
Well, what's interesting is when you're a member of the Legislative Assembly, you're not labeled. You're a member of the Legislative Assembly that looks at all the issues that are in front of them. The fact that I was elected as a Liberal is not a hidden fact, and there was no deliberate strategy to leave it out or not. You're a member of the Legislative Assembly as an MLA, much as when you're a member of Parliament, you're not a Conservative member or a Liberal member, you're a member of Parliament. And that's what the label means.
But I'm just curious to know why you wouldn't. I mean, you were a member of the Lawrence Decorah Liberal Caucus. Is that not a point of pride? Why not accept that label?
Actually, I served under 3 leaders.
Yes.
And again, it's not that that's hidden at all. It's a member of the Legislative Assembly is what the title is.
Since your election in 2001, you've always had a reputation as being focused on details and being a good manager. But the mayor's job is a job that is also a lot about personality. So I'm just wondering, what about your style makes you feel that you are a good fit for the mayor's job?
My style is one of being very approachable, of being an active listener, of then taking the requests and moving them forward to a solution. I am able to bring together people and to be a consensus builder. I work in a collaborative manner, but I also am able to stand firm on issues and to make tough decisions. And when you look at what you need in the mayor's chair, especially in the next 4 years, that are not going to be easy years.
Can I ask why especially in the next 4 years?
Well, the next 4 years, we've spent a lot of time building some of the infrastructure or approving, we haven't built it yet, a lot of the infrastructure that we haven't focused on, the physical infrastructure that we haven't focused on in a number of years for a variety of reasons. We've now made those decisions. We have to put the shovel in the ground. We have to get them built. That takes strong leadership, and again, that's part of being a doer, of ensuring that those projects move ahead. We have to also ensure that we have the appropriate budgetary mechanisms in place, as well as have the finances to continue as the city grows. And that's a big job in order to ensure that we're spending wisely taxpayers' dollars, and we're also able to show value for tax dollars. So you need that balance. When you look at some of the other issues that we're going to have to deal with, and those are issues around social infrastructure, homelessness, affordable housing, the requirements of the many newcomers that are coming to the city of Edmonton that don't necessarily feel that they're included. Those are all areas that, again, require strong leadership. And strong leadership comes from experience. It comes from having dealt with many issues over a long period of time. I've taken tough decisions many times. One of those tough decisions was around the Arena and Entertainment District. And I didn't waffle. So when you need, what you're looking for in a mayor's chair is someone, again, who's strong and is a doer and is able to stand up for the city of Edmonton. We're going to have many issues on a go-forward basis with the region and with the provincial government. The MGA is opening at this point in time. That's the Municipal Government Act. And that gives us an entry point into talking about the big city charter and the needs of the city of Edmonton, as well as what is a fair distribution of tax dollars.
Okay, this concludes the live streaming portion of this editorial board.